Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about fantasy, sci-fi, and whatever other nerdiness we feel like geeking out about. Today, I'm here with some special guests, and not Zachary, because we're talking about The Expanse today, and he's just started the first book. It's a little behind, but he's coming. He's coming along. But I have with me today some people who are a little more familiar with The Expanse than my son. And we're going to be having a good time talking about some of the short stories, the novellas, and just the series as a whole, both the books and references to the TV show. So we're going to have a great time. I want to remind you all that if you like this episode, be sure to like it. Literally, click that like button here on YouTube. Consider subscribing to the channel so you see all the other stuff that we keep putting out here, short and long content kinds of things. And find us in social media, Discord, Twitter, Mastodon, wherever you like to hang out. We've got links for all of those down here in the show notes. We'd love to talk to you more. Now, with that kind of business behind us, let's find out who these fine gentlemen are with us here today. On the screen, over that way. I've practiced how to point on screen because this is totally backwards, but it's how it works. Jake, welcome back.
Thanks, Jim. It's good to be back.
Some of these diehard watchers have seen you here before, as we did a first round on The Expanse.
We did.
What did that go, like 3 hours?
Something like that. There was a lot of alcohol involved.
Oh man, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. And I'm glad you're back and still standing for us to try again. Yeah, it was pretty much as soon as we were done with that, we were like, we should do this again sometime.
Definitely.
There's more to talk about. And also on that previous episode, we had Leigh-a Roofmistress with us, and she was going to join us today. In fact, we advertised she'd be here. And she's under the weather at the last minute. Fingers crossed, she might jump in if we talk long enough and she starts to feel better, but no guarantees. However, we've got another frequent guest on Fantasy for the Ages who was willing to pinch hit at the last moment. So you see him, you love him, Spencer from the Fantasy Files. How you doing, Spencer?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Man, that must have been a really good conversation for you to go for 3 hours. I don't think I've ever known you to go past 1 hour.
I never go that long, but man, we just couldn't stop talking.
Yeah.
It was great.
Expanse
now,
awesome.
Some of it had to do with the amount of liquid Leigh-a had consumed.
Right.
Yeah. I helped a little bit.
We all did. All right. We were expounding on The Expanse. It was true. Yeah. But we had a great time.
Nice.
So, speaking of that, what we always do when we get on these is we do drink. That's a little bit, you got to keep the vocal cords wet so you can keep talking. You don't want to get a dry throat and get all raspy. Jake, are you drinking anything today?
Yeah, I'm just sticking with some seltzers and a side of water. So,
all right. Keeping it simple.
Yeah.
How about you, Spencer? You got anything to liquidate with?
When I got the message to come on for this, I had literally just walked in the door from taking my dog to the groomers. And so I did not have a chance to make anything special, but I do have my signature Powerade that people always see me drinking on the podcast.
There you go. And guys, I want to give Spencer big props. I literally reached out to him like 15 minutes before we went live. Dude, can you help? Would you love to join us? And he was like, yeah, I'm in. Now, he may have to leave early here today because he's got other plans going on, but he's with us for as long as he can. Since you might have to jump out a little early, Spencer, take time now. Tell people a little about the Fantasy Files.
Oh, yeah. So, we're a podcast primarily on YouTube, although we have started rolling out our episodes onto Spotify. So now we have a bunch of them on there, up to our Chris McGrath interview episode, I think is the last one I uploaded.
Right.
But yeah, most of our stuff is on YouTube. We do a long form discussion like this. on various fantasy and sci-fi books, and even some that aren't really technically fantasy. And then we also do, booktube style, videos, like little 20 to 30 minute videos where I review a book, or I recently reviewed the audiobook subscription service Scribd. And so that one's kind of been a hit. We just did our worst books of 2022. Yeah, and that was a big hit. People like to hear you rant.
That's
they
big.
love,
Oh man, that sounds so harsh.
I know they love the negatives sometimes, and I started out not planning on going on a rant. I was going to do it very clinical and very like, these are the books I didn't like and this is why. But then I started talking, and it sometimes you just go in on something when you feel strongly about it. So yeah, that's a very fun episode. People are really liking that one, so people can go check that out if they like.
All right. Yeah, be sure to find Fantasy Files there. They've got a great YouTube channel, lots of good content there. You'll even see my face on a few of those episodes. We've had some good collaboration times.
Yeah.
Jake, I didn't give you a chance. Is there anything you want to tell people about what more they should know about you, or where they might be able to find you anywhere?
I mean, you tag me on Twitter. That's good enough. I'm not a content creator. I'm just a fan that hangs out with content creators sometimes.
He is not unknown out here in this world. That's for sure. Now, I didn't talk about what I'm drinking. Because I made a special drink. On this show, I often craft special cocktails especially for our Wheel of Time episodes. But for the Expanse, I crafted something. But it requires a supply. Something I have to go get now. But I'll set it up first here, because I have a drink that looks pretty basic. It's a couple shots of bourbon, and not just crap bourbon. I forget the exact brand, but it's a good bourbon. Okay,
nice.
And then there's a little soda water in there. Open it up a little bit, and then one more ingredient goes in. So I will be right back. Did you talk about something?
Yeah. So I feel like I should mention I have not read the short stories, and he reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing?" I'm like, "I haven't read the short stories, but I'm totally down to join you." I've read the whole Expanse series, like in its entirety, aside from those. So I doubt I'll be of any help on this episode, but I'm just here to hang out and have a good time. Here we go.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. And if you're familiar with the show at all, you'll get a lot of the references from most of the short stories.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I know just from the show what the Drive novella is, because they had that in the show. I really like that episode.
All right. Well, what I have now, ready to make my drink, it's called Dropping the Rock. If you're familiar with the Expanse, you have an idea of what that means. I have a berry syrup ice ball.
Oh, what?
And I just dropped the rock.
Nice.
There it
That's
is.
Awesome.
I just made a mess here too, but it's worth it.
Yeah, worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, what is that you're drinking out of?
Oh, this is just a
Like a
koozie
tanker.
style I can drop a can into.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Do you like your green screen, Jim?
Oh,
that's cool.
I do. And what this thing does then, it's going to continue to melt and add a berry syrup flavor throughout the bourbon.
So did you make that, or did you buy that somewhere? Or you made it?
I took frozen raspberries, blackberries, and Marion berries. You can get them in a bag, a mix like that. And I cooked them, boiled them in a cup of water. So it was 2 cups of berries, a cup of water, and then a cup of sugar.
Whoa!
Cooked it all down, strained out the berry part, so I just had the juice.
Yeah.
And then I had a silicone mold to make my little round balls.
Wow.
When you add it into the mold, add a little extra water so it freezes up hard. Otherwise, it freezes up gummy.
Okay.
Mine's gummy.
Okay.
So I didn't have enough water.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try that. That looks awesome. It's a great idea.
And I did test pilot it on my wife last night, and she was like, "Oh, Oh, yeah. This is a winner of an.
That's
She
a
hates
staple in the
bourbon,
household
but she
now.
loved this. So she's like, "Drop the rock, honey. Drop the rock." Oh, not that kind of podcast. Okay, going on. I don't know where that came from.
That's the bourbon talking.
I haven't even sipped it yet. Okay. So now I'm going to lead us on into some content, okay? And as we talk about things here, this is a full spoiler episode. So if you are someone who hasn't read The Expanse yet, you just like fantasy for the ages, don't watch this episode now. Unless you don't care about spoilers and you're like, bring it, ruin it all for me. Well, then you're in a happy, safe place. That'll be fine. Because we're not holding back.
Nope.
And Spencer hasn't read these short stories yet, but he knows this. So he's willing to brave this for us, for you. Okay? He's doing it for you.
This is my gift to you, myself.
Nice. There are 9 core novels, of course, in The Expanse. And then there's all these short stories and novellas that fit in the midst of the timeline of the whole 9-book story. We're going to real quick move through each of what these short stories and novellas are about. Not like a huge book review kind of thing, but just a little synopsis of each one. And we'll make some comments, anything we want related to these stories, how they tie into the books, how they maybe were reflected on the TV series. And Jake and Spencer will have a chance to say whatever they want about each one of these while I just kind of work through. I do recommend when you read The Expanse, don't skip the short stories and novellas. And if you can, because it's all out there now, find one of those timeline recommendations for reading orders and fit them in where they truly go in the story. And I think it makes for a better read.
Yeah, that's what I wish I had done. I feel like when I was going through the main series, I was just so eager to get back to Holden and the Rocinante that I was like, I'll catch up on them later. And then I just never did. I think I might have read the one about Amos. I think I did read that one.
Well, that's one of the best.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. Explains a lot.
A lot.
So we'll talk about that in a moment here. Yes, absolutely. The short stories, almost all of them are now available in a collection. I read them separately, individually, but once the whole series was done, Jake, that's called what? You were the one that told me about the collection first.
Memories Legion.
Right. And that's the only place right now you can get the last novella,
I believe
right?
so.
Yeah. Which, when we were on here last time, I hadn't read yet. I didn't even know it was there. So Jake opened my eyes. Now I've read it. Now we can talk. Okay. Yeah. So let's work our way through. I'm going to touch on each of these in publication order. Okay. And then we'll kind of talk about where they fit into the series. So the first one is The Butcher of Anderson Station. That was set some years before the events of Book 1, Leviathan Wakes. Really gives critical backstory into this Fred Johnson guy and how he ends up going from actually the hero of the Earth Navy to defecting to the OPA. Thoughts on this one, Jake? What do you think of this story?
I thought it gave really good insight from Fred Johnson's perspective of it, for the most part. Because he was not too long after he broke his silence and went off to the belt. They portray him more as, going to the Belter bars, getting drunk, looking for fights until one Anderson Dawes finds him.
Familiar name, Spencer? Anderson Dawes? You remember him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
One, he's like, if you really want to fight for the belt, like, let's fight for the belt. And kind of really helps him and brings him up into a kind of a prominent name. Lets him tell his side of the story, because he didn't. He went away into the darkness, didn't want to really publicize what had happened. He was a scapegoat for Earth and a hero to a certain extent. or hero first, and then turned into a scapegoat once the
Totally, because he wouldn't play
came out.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was fantastic. I don't know. It's actually, this is one that I read. It's been a while since I've read that one. Not super familiar with it as far as the tiny details go.
Well, when we meet Fred Johnson in the series, he's this power figure in the OPA, but he's got this backstory, and he's referenced as the Butcher of Anderson Station. It was fascinating to get to understand the details behind that, but also to see the politics involved. That, I mean, people play dirty pool. And that kind of happens frequently in the Expanse, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like a paragon of fairness that everyone in this series who has power only does the right thing.
Yeah, not everybody is James Holden.
It kind of makes him special.
Yeah. Right. That's what I really liked about The Expanse, especially getting a lot of, moments with Avasarala. And just seeing how, like, she is so cold politically, and she just has this mind for maneuvering. And I wouldn't consider her like a bad guy or anything, but she's very, like, she's not Holden. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because if you called her a bad guy, I was going to disconnect you from the episode.
No, I love Avasarala.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah. But again, she's one of those complex characters. It's got dark and light, you know, and we just hope for most of these characters as we work our way through the series that the light side of them will win out. Because even some of the scummiest characters actually do some good things at times. Only James Holden is, well, no, okay, he has his issues too. Come on, let's be honest.
All right. It's and it's in one of the main books, but you see a lot of him from Naomi's perspective towards the middle of the series, and kind of get a view of him from like a Belter's eyes, which is really refreshing.
And one of Holden's biggest issues is he's going to do what he thinks is right, no matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
Consequences be darned.
Chaotic good.
Yeah. Great example of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you should think a little longer before you act.
Yeah.
He has no space between thought and action. It's just... All right, the second of these support stories is a novella called Gods of Risk. It's set between Book 2, Caliban's War, and Book 3, Abaddon's Gate. This gives a little taste of what life and social structures are at this time for those living on Mars, as well as some family details and motivations for members of the Draper family, including core series character Bobby Draper. The story, however, is told from the POV of her nephew, Daniel. When I read this one... Yeah. It's nice to get that different perspective. When I read this one, I was like, can we be done with this story yet? I wasn't real excited with this one. I appreciated it afterwards, and I can see what it added to my understanding in a lot of ways of things relevant to the main story, but I was annoyed at it at first. I'm like, I'm bored. Come on, let's go. What do you think about that one, Jake? Did you have same idea there?
Not necessarily so much.
How dare you disagree with me? What?
I watched the show before I read the book, so a lot of what was going on made sense because they did. This is one of the ones that they touched on with the show with her nephew cooking drugs.
Exactly. Spencer, have you watched the show?
Yes, I've seen the show up until like where the end of book 4 would be.
Okay. So you've got this part. This short story is in the elements of, I think, season 2?
2 maybe.
Oh, okay.
2 or 3.
Yeah. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember it exactly, but yeah.
So I had elements of kind of knowing what was going on once they started talking about it. I was like, oh, okay, this is this in reference to this in the show. And I also read the collection of short stories after I finished the main series of books.
Right. So now, you hadn't read
in between.
you hadn't read any of the short stories ahead of time, right? It wasn't until you'd finished the series that you then read them
Correct.
all in the collection.
Correct.
That's a very different experience from what
Yeah.
I.
Well, you also read them all before watching the show as well.
Yes, that was an
Mhm.
intentional
Yes.
commitment of mine because it's an adaptation. I
Yeah.
like source
Right.
material first.
Yeah.
What's the collection called?
Memories Legion.
Oh, okay. I'll have to pick that up and just go through it.
Mhm.
It's worthy. It is.
So-
but I could see where this story would be appreciated a little more after you've read the series.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would imagine when you were reading through those shorts, Jake, you were like, yes, more of the Expanse. And that's all you
Yes.
really cared about. Just give me more. Give me
Yeah,
more.
right,
Spencer, were you going to say something there?
Nope. No, I don't think so. But I'm definitely going to pick up Memories Legion. Does it have Sins of the Father in it?
It does.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
All right. The next up is another short story, really short little thing called Drive. It takes place many years before book one, and it tells the story of the technology discovery that led to space travel at the level we see it in the core series, as well as helping us understand the contribution that discovery. What's the name of the drive? It's
Epstein.
the
Epstein Drive.
Epstein drive. Okay, so we see the invention of the Epstein drive,
Mhm.
and it helps us understand how that totally changes politics in the solar
Yeah.
system between Mars and Earth. And that's referenced in the TV show as
Yeah.
well.
I think
Yeah.
it's the cold open for season 2.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. Yeah. I liked
Yes.
that short story, actually.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's one that I definitely want to check out. Is the short story exactly how it was in the show, where there's like this guy who's like trying out this new engine and he gets stuck in like a pole?
Yep.
It
And
pretty much
dies out there.
it gets there. It kind of starts out with him in college and kind of meeting his wife, and so it kind of gives a little backstory of him, and also kind of more so of the political structure of what's going on between Earth and Mars before they're able to actually make it to the belt.
So you get a little more nuance out of it. But
Mhm.
right.
the actual what happens then when he tries out his engine, that was captured very accurately. on
Very
the
well.
show,
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah,
kind of
that-
tragic.
It was terrifying.
Yeah. I one of the I'm not gonna get it word for word at all, but they talk about it being like one of the greatest funeral pyres of anyone in existence, because you can still see the drive of his ship.
It's going on
Oh.
forever now, man.
Yep.
It's out there.
Wow. Jeez.
And kind of graphic, some of the descriptions of what's happening to him physically.
Yes.
When it happens, they show it on the TV, but when you read it in the print, you're like, oh man, this sucks.
It is
Oh,
from
Yeah.
his perspective. He is describing it in his
it's very unsettling.
Yeah, that's something that the Expanse did really well. Was every time there was something like that, every time they jumped or anything like that, it would explain like what exactly is happening to the body and why they need these the juice and all that. And that's something I always really appreciated about the Expanse, is that it didn't shy away from that.
Totally.
One of my favorite lines is, "And then the elephant got off my chest."
Yeah.
Mhm. It's one of the things I appreciate most about the series, in that it's very much leaning into its science fiction at that point,
Mhm.
not
Right.
science fantasy. It's not playing fast and loose with the physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
They've
rare to find a show that does that.
Yeah, they've got their own science in the world based on potential science that could happen in the future, and they stick to it.
They
Yeah.
do. They do. Including in the TV series. And they kind of let it go a little bit, but you hear a lot of the their magnetic boots everywhere.
Oh yeah.
They do it on the TV, and it's
Yeah.
soft and in the background after a while, but it's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next up in the shorts and novellas is a novella called The Churn. Now, this is one you were talking about earlier, Spencer. This is that
Yes.
backstory. Okay?
I believe I read this, although I can't remember a ton of it. But yeah, I believe I read this one.
So this is another one that's set before Leviathan Wakes. So it's a prequel to the series itself. It's a number of years earlier. It takes place entirely on planet Earth. And I think it's the only story that's entirely on Earth. We come to learn by the end of the story that what we're getting is really the critical backstory for Amos Burton. Okay, this is who he was, where he came from, and why he is the way he is. It also introduces us to another character who will be seen later in a significant role, both in the core story and
Eric.
in another short story, Eric.
Yep.
And Eric and Amos's interactions in Nemesis games make much more sense if you've read the Churn first.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm excited to get, because I'm in the middle of a main book reread right now, and I haven't gotten to Nemesis games yet. But I'm excited to get to that one. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, totally. You know, when you're just reading the book series the first time and you get to that bit where he's going into Baltimore and forcing his way into Eric's building, and they have this confrontation, and you're like, oh, there's something here.
Yeah.
Well, the Churn is what it is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I appreciated book 5 a lot more on a reread where we finally get to see people doing stuff in Earth for the first time in the series. I've always enjoyed Amos, but his interactions with Eric were very interesting there, for sure.
I would have to say Amos is my favorite character in the series.
Yeah, for sure.
He's so screwed up in some ways, and yet heart of gold deep down at the core. Okay, it's really buried. Yeah. But you see it come through in some unique ways throughout the series. And the way the series ends then with him, I'm like,
oh yeah. Man, I remember live tweeting you while I was reading those last couple books.
That's right.
And I was so mad. I was like,
you were so mad. He was so PO'd.
I was like, if they really killed off Amos, I'm gonna be so mad. That is not the way that he should go out.
You can't take a guy out like that. Yeah, they just spocked him. What's wrong with this? Yeah,
yeah. And then oh man, then when he came back, it was like the most like triumphant. Yes,
I would say that is like the truest form of Amos.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
You know, of any of the core characters to come back that way, Amos is the one who's going to be the least changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
You know, it's still just that's him. He's a little different, you know. And there you go. Yeah. Loved that. All right. So continuing on through these stories, The Vital Abyss is what's next. A novella that takes place between book 3, Abaddon's Gate, and book 4, Cibola Burn. It tells the tale of scientists / researchers who are being kept in permanent captivity after their previous top secret work was necessarily abandoned. These prisoners are, how should I say this? They are not right.
Altered.
Altered. Screwed up royally. Okay?
Yeah.
But altered is probably the better term, Jake, because, that didn't just happen to them. They were altered.
Yeah.
This novella introduces us to Dr. Paolo Cortazar, who we will come to learn has played a significant role in later books. This was another one where when you first are reading it, you're kind of going, what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. And then when you get to the ending, I'm like, oh, I don't know. That was my experience with this one.
Yeah.
That's real insightful to people watching the video.
Right.
Nice commentary, Jim. Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, you guys will have to fill me in on what happened in this one, because I actually did start reading this one, but it bored me to tears. And I set it down.
That.
I was like,
I understand.
I was like, this is the most boring thing I've ever read. And so I set it down. But so I don't know about any of these altered scientists, or at least I don't think I knew that they were altered at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, you want to take this, or I will?
Sure. Yeah, I got this. And actually, in the show, they have a Paulo Cortazar as well. He is
do.
taken captive by on
Holden.
Toth Station by Holden and Miller. Whenever they get that,
And
so
they play his alteredness very accurately on the TV.
They do.
Oh,
he's the scientist doctor that they have in captivity. He's doing all the stuff on the walls, and he's wanting to finish the protomolecule work. And he actually eventually is in a prisoner transfer to the Laconians later on in the series, and helps with their work in later books in 6, 7, or 7, 8, 9.
Right.
So is Lyconia in the show then? Did they like smush it all?
Kind of right there a little bit in season 6, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
They do the what it's coming up here in a little while, but they basically do the Strange Dogs novella
that's a cold open for season 6, and then scattered throughout the season.
Episode. Yeah, they did the cold open, and they did little aspects of the next novella, Strange Dogs. So,
which is what ticks me off that they stop at season 6, because they've set up 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And they haven't finished it yet. But James S.A. Corey says it's just on pause, guys. It's just on pause.
Oh, has he officially said that?
I haven't seen
his belief, but he's not producing the TV show.
Right,
so
right.
His intention, their intention, it's 2 guys, but their intention is it's gonna still get produced at some point.
Well,
yeah, I could see them doing 3 movies with the final 3 books.
Ooh.
Either that.
There's enough there.
Yeah. And the interesting thing too is, wasn't there like a big time skip between 6 and 7? Wasn't there like a 20-year time skip or 15?
And that was a little disjointed for me at the beginning. I'm like, I don't want this. Move this far ahead, but it didn't take me long. I mean, by a third of the way into that book, I'm like, no, I'm good. It's fine.
Yeah, I didn't mind it too much. It was, once I wrapped my head around it, it's like, okay. Yeah. Oh, so we're going, because I mean they kind of resolve things. Like Marco Naros was kind of the big bad for the first little bit, that trilogy of books.
Yep.
And then once they dealt with that, everything's going smooth. Get them. It
actually makes sense though for the story they're trying to tell. I think it's a 20-year time jump.
30,
and it makes a lot of sense.
Oh wow, yeah. So yeah, if they came back years later with a show, it wouldn't be that that far off from what we kind of expected with the books. I think.
Age up the actors a little bit,
right?
Yeah, let them age up a bit.
What I get out of the Vital Abyss at its core is that they got these top scientists to be willing to have their brains mentally messed with, so that they could focus on the work at a whole new, deeper level.
Well,
knowing it was going to do something to them, they didn't fully disclose everything it would do to them. They gave them an idea of what it was going to do to them, but they didn't care because they wanted to do the work. And once it's changed their brain chemistry, now all that matters is the work.
Right.
Nothing else matters, including anyone else's life. If that's in the way, screw them. The work is all that matters, and that's what we see in Paulo Cortazar, even on the show.
So something I picked up whenever I listened to this the other day is they asked them, like, before they're altered, they asked them, like, what's the difference between, like, testing on animals versus testing on humans? Like, would testing on a mouse, like the amount of mice we would have to actually kill, would that be worth it to do it to human? Like, we're all animals in the grand scheme, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then, so once they kind of get that brain, like that activity going, like those thoughts, they do this mind altering thing with magnetics or something. And then once they're altered and they can actually, get them where they want, then they ask them if they want to make it permanent. And then they're like, yeah.
Yeah, the way I feel right now? Heck yeah.
So they do it as a test, but while they're altered, they get them to make it permanent, which is totally
their judgment is so accurate at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
So they make it a point that that's like the reason they do it is so that they will say yes.
Right.
Okay. So political manipulation again. That's really what's going on here. Yeah, totally. All right, that brings us up to the next short story, which is Strange Dogs, which Jake had just referenced a moment ago, which is scattered throughout season 6 of the TV series. Strange Dogs is a novella with events set between Book 6, Babylon's Ashes, and Book 7, Persepolis Rising. So it made sense to use it the way they did in the TV series if they were going to go on. Makes no sense, otherwise. It's like, why did you do that? It's not even relevant. Okay. But it really seems to be an unconnected side story when you read it in the flow until you go on to Persepolis Rising.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I totally see what's happening now. And what you learn in Strange Dogs is huge.
I'm pretty sure Paolo Cortazar makes a small appearance in this book too. Just a brief, he's there.
I know Duarte is.
Duarte is. But I think he's with Duarte.
Was Cortazar with him?
I think so. Yeah.
But it's Duarte before he started his transformation.
Correct.
Because they learn what can be done based on what's discovered in the story Strange Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That strange dogs can alter you and bring you back to life.
Now, those strange dogs, we do see them on the TV series. I don't know, Spencer, you haven't finished the TV show yet, right? So you have no idea what we're talking about, and just keep smiling and nodding on this one. Yeah,
you're doing great.
you are awesome, man. I'm loving it. Okay. But again, Strange Dogs explains so much foundational information that you will benefit from in books 7, 8, and 9 that I was glad I read it first, but it still had to be fun to read it afterwards, Jake.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One thing that I picked up this time was like because they had talked about turning on the artifacts that were in orbit around the planet, and once that happened is whenever the dogs came out of hibernation or wherever they had been. And so there's this chain of events that set in motion with the proto molecule, and that's how Amos ends up towards the end.
And
exactly, so that same process with the strange dogs that ends up fixing him.
Yeah, and it's not even people too. They fix the drone. So like they're fixers.
Yes.
Right. So from what I understood, are the strange dogs those things that they had made, like those little drones that would go around, or is that something else? Am I confused?
I don't know. It's hard to understand exactly. They're little android type creatures that look like dogs.
I think in the novella, they're because it's just from Kara's point of view, so she just thinks of them as strange dogs. But I think later on, they are the drones that are referred to in the main books.
Okay. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that fix Amos in the cave.
My drink is a total berry bourbon now. This thing is just saying.
Is it good?
It's so good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
I'm going to have to try
that. And for those of you watching who want to try it, the recipe will show up on our Discord and our Instagram eventually. All right.
Excellent.
Next up, we've got three last entries here. So we've got The Last Flight of the Cassandra, or Cassandra, however you want to pronounce it. That's how all this sci-fi and fantasy stuff is. Pronounce stuff however you want. Even if they say it on TV or an audiobook, you can say, nah, they're wrong, and say it your own way. It's cool. This is a very short story that's set during the events of Book 1, Leviathan Wakes. So it's like a different perspective on others in the solar system and how they're impacted by things that are happening during Book 1.
Hey, you random citizen.
Now, this is not found in Memories Legion.
Nope.
This was published as part of an Expanse RPG. Jake, you have this game.
Yeah, it's a tabletop RPG based in the world of the Expanse. It's a lot of fun, actually. I run a game with some of our Wheel of Time friends, We try to
Now,
get
is this the
Spindle.
one I had a chance to be a part of once, and then
Yeah.
it didn't work out?
It didn't work out for us.
Man, yeah.
But
The
yeah, no,
story
it's
itself
a fun
is
little
just
story.
a
It's like-
prelude to the game.
yeah, and it just tells the story of some random rock hoppers that see what was going on the feeds and what they're doing, and then they come across an asteroid with some things which actually there's an adventure in the game that takes place there later on. So little game build up. It's fun.
So where does the game take place as far as timeline? Is it after the events of the books?
No, it takes place pretty much simultaneously. Like it's pretty modulated. So it starts out, but they the company just released a book towards the end of last year called Beyond the Rings. So it's set so you can actually play through the events of the books and then make your own ring world and start a colony and things like that. So, and they're continuously adding stuff to it. Like they just added a bounty hunter profession, so you can do some stuff like that, and or you can just go be a pirate and take on other ships. It's fun.
Nice.
Fortunately, this is safe from the current massive Dungeons and Dragons
that's
meltdown.
Wild.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
This is not based in it's not a 5e game.
Wizards of the Coast, pause off. Okay.
Yep.
Jeez. Yeah, that whole thing's crazy, dude.
Unbelievable. It just smells of greed.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Greed.
It's gonna backfire so bad.
Oh, it will. It will.
It is.
Yeah.
It already is.
Oh yeah.
All right, we've got two left now. Oberon is a novella set between Book 7, Persepolis Rising, and Book 8, Tiamat's Wrath. It gives us insight into how people and planets are managing the experience of living under Laconian rule.
Mm-hmm.
And some are managing it better than others, as we are reintroduced to Gang Lord Eric, who got off Earth. We'd seen that earlier. And Amos's old buddy, and he started a new criminal empire on one of the planets you could get to through the rings, Oberon, same thing. And it includes how he fairly easily finds a way to handle and manipulate the Laconian authorities. Eric is a master manipulator. He will find leverage one place or another. And the Laconian overlords, they're the military rule, and you follow everything. And, well, unless someone gets the right leverage.
Yep. I really like this one. It was a lot of fun. Because it's 35 years after the events of the main books in the show. Or the first 6 books.
Really?
Yeah, the first 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the first 6. Yeah, sorry.
It's
the
before
first
it's
6.
done. Yeah.
Correct. And so it's about 35 years after the events of the show, I guess I should say. And so there's a old man Eric. He's gotten
He has
rid
2
of
arms again.
He's gotten rid of his baby arm, as he calls it, and has
got
gotten
his mechanical,
wild mechanical prosthetic that can stop a bullet if it's shot at him at quite close range.
I will crush you. Yeah, that kind
But
of.
it's cool.
I gotta check this out.
Part of it's from his perspective, and he talks about how he hates it when it happens because it basically just rips like the muscles that he has like in his shoulder and chest because it's moving so fast to catch.
He misses his little baby arm sometimes.
He does. That was his confession at the end, was that he doesn't feel complete without his own arm. But yeah, with the political structure of it and the new governors going out to all these different planets and stuff, and the criminal underworld that's gonna rise up no matter where you are, trying to find a way to keep their way of life going, even if it is on a sewage smelling like planet. Apparently the fauna on Oberon smells like poop.
You get used to anything eventually, I guess.
I
right?
guess so.
And
it also has a weird rotation with the sun and the sunrise and sunset where it happens 3 times a day.
It totally screws your circadian rhythm.
Yep.
Messes up. People struggle, man.
Yep.
I mean, I lived in Alaska for 7 years, and people would complain about the long daylight in the summer and the short daylight in the winter and how hard it was. Yeah, we'll try the sun coming up and down 3 times in the 24 hours. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That mess you up.
Yeah, the midnight sunrise, I think is what they called it, and then the noon sunset. It's nuts.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta check this one out. This sounds awesome.
So for a while, that was the last of the novellas and short stories. But then when Memories Legion came out at the end of the final series, when everything's done, there was one more novella tucked in there, Sins of Our Fathers.
Yeah.
So it's the last published work of the Expanse to date. And it falls a few decades later on after the core series is done.
Yep.
And it gives us 2 gems.
I think it takes place about in between like 3 to 7 years after the final book.
Really? I thought it was longer than that.
Maybe not even that far, because anyways, go ahead with it and I'll explain why.
I was pretty sure they've been cut off and on their own for quite a period of time, but
I don't think it's been for that long. They do reference it because they still have things to create what they need to make like potable water and food stuff, and they are talking about in the next like 5 to 7 years running out because they weren't planning on being alone for that long once the rings closed.
I'm using almighty Google to get an answer.
Internet. Yes, please. I would love to be wrong.
Let's just find out, because I don't know either. And if we don't get it right, people will be commenting on the episode.
Yeah.
Dudes, you got it wrong, man. Come on.
Those idiots.
No, they don't know anything. Put themselves out there as experts.
Why are they even talking about this? They don't know anything.
We will put it right out here again, guys. We are not experts. We are fans. And we are talking whatever we happen to think at the moment as fans. That's all. You want a real critical analysis of books with every detail straight, this is the wrong podcast for you. And that quickly, I can't find the answer. So
no worries.
I'll have to look it up later. I'll add a disclaimer if I was wrong. And if you were wrong, I'll just laugh about it. So, all right, going. You're probably right, actually.
I listened to it yesterday. I think I might be right.
You're probably right. That's right. But so we get from this an example of what's happened to the many different human colonies that were cut off from each other now when the ring gates closed. They're there. They're on their own now. There's no connecting with the rest of the universe. As well as we get to find out what happened to a couple of key past characters from our series, especially one, Philip Nagata. And
Philip and
just knowing he chose to use that last name was part of it. Yeah. Look at that. But the other key character, Jake, who you just read it again or listened to it. Who's the other character from the past in that one that we get reconnected with?
Anna Volovodov's daughter.
Yes. Who was a very tertiary character early
Not
in the
even a
series.
character there. It's a character that that a tertiary character talks to.
Yeah. Interesting.
It was fun to see. Well, someone else and what's gone on with that person's life.
Because she's cut off too. One other thing that stuck out to me, and it may have just been her use of words. Navi, I forget her name. Anywho, she talks about her sainted mother. And I'm like, did Anna actually get a sainthood?
Oh no, I don't think so. That's just a saying. Sainted as in past.
I don't know. I'm not. I grew up a little religious, but not like super religious.
Yeah, but the denomination she was with she wasn't Catholic, so they wouldn't have sainted her.
Yeah, that's fair. But the Catholic Church may have sainted her because of what she did to save humanity.
We can
But
have our
anywho,
theories.
that's a phrase that was used, and I thought that was interesting.
All right. So those are the short stories and novellas.
So
Great. We've covered them now. We're going to move on to some other sundry stuff that'll be fun and that Spencer can talk about. But
Yeah.
Spencer has something. So what do you got?
I have a question. So for Sins of the Father, was there any other characters that, like, do we find out about any of the other characters? Because I think I was really down on Leviathan Falls, and I really hated how we didn't really get an end to any of the characters besides Amos. Does Sins of the Father kind of clue us in as to what happened to any of those characters? Or
Nope,
I mean,
nope,
Philip's
it's a total
cut off,
time
so
jump.
It doesn't.
We're just getting a little closure on a couple of characters who were secondary or not even tertiary, but it's more that what's happened to humanity now that the gates are closed. That's what
I can argue that even though it's about Philip, you don't get closure on what happened to Philip.
True that, actually.
They go from a system with billions and billions of people with access to the ring gates, and then to Sol system access to billions of people and technology and everything, to at the snap of a finger there's around 2,000 people in this system.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's probably one that will fail.
Yeah.
They talk about the settlement where they built their settlement is right in the migratory path of predator alien animals, and so they have to fight them off. And then there's
and
already
the resources they use. Yes. They don't have the technology and ability with them to replicate these things once they use them up.
They have guns. They don't have ammo anymore.
They never expected to be cut off from those sorts of things, so they didn't plan for it.
Yep, and most of the planets that we find out in book 4, where they're humans can't process the local animals and nature to rely on that for food sources. Water is water, but they have to create their own food.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Besides, you can't eat much when it all smells like crap.
Yeah.
All right. So we've hashed through some thoughts on these companion stories. Now let's have some fun with some categories on just the Expanse as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm looking for, first off, your top 3 characters. And you don't have to say them all at once. We can kind of work through it, and we certainly don't have to agree. But I already put out there my favorite overall was Amos Burton.
Same, yeah.
I think that's fair. He's a great character. I think he is the type of character that we all wish we could actually be. But because he's not afraid of dying, and he's
some
of
those psychotic tendencies. I don't know.
Well, he does what he wants and says what he wants, and everyone else be damned, because either he'll be killed for it and he's not scared of death, or he can beat the crap out of whoever else tries to come for him. So
you definitely want him to be your friend, not your enemy.
Yes. But no, he's one of my favorites for sure too. He's awesome.
Yeah.
And the actor that they got for him
he was perfect.
So perfect.
Perfect.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. As soon as I saw that guy in the show, I was like, oh, that's
him, man.
That's exactly how I picture Amos. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the show before reading the books, and once they got to the character description for Amos, I'm like, all right, not really, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. He's way too handsome to be Amos, but but no, he's good. Fair. He's fantastic.
Amos, he became my favorite character when he just pile drove a can of chicken into that guy's face.
Oh, that's a great scene,
dude.
That's a great scene.
That's probably one of my top 5 favorite scenes in the series.
Oh, yeah.
And after that, I was just like, oh, I should keep an eye on this Amos guy. And then he just got better and better with every single book. He's such an awesome
Amos
character.
Guy. Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Jake, what's another one you'd put in your top 3 then?
From the books, because definitely not from the show, because they did my girl dirty in the show. Michiopa.
All right, I will agree they did her dirty in the show. I mean, it's an adaptation and they're combining and shrinking stuff.
Yes,
But
I think
I didn't
gave,
like her
they
in the
gave
show.
They gave a lot of pause stuff from the books to Kamina Drummer in the show, which is fine. Kamina Drummer in the show is fantastic. The actor that they got for her is great too. But I just thought a lot of the stuff, especially in book 7, I believe, whenever she's head of the transport union and
That's
also
7.
kind of going toward like doing a lot to go up against Laconia and is, going on the side of humanity. Belters, yes, but humanity there. So doing a lot of like the working with Naomi to do like the little bottles and the transfers and keeping all the underground together. That was so good to me. And yeah, I thought she was fantastic, great underrated character, and they did her dirty in the show. But
all right, so there you go. There's your second.
Yeah.
Spencer, what would you put as another one for you? Do you agree with that one, or do you have a different?
Honestly, I don't really remember that character a whole lot. I need to do another reread. But yeah, I would say my second is probably Holden, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I think that he's just such an interesting character from, as someone who reads a lot of grimdark, where like your main character is usually a very morally gray kind of person. But then also I read a lot of Dresden Files, and Holden is very much a kind of a Harry Dresden type character. And so I enjoyed that a lot. And there was times in the earlier books where I would be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you like this? Like, why does everything have to be like so honest with you? And like, you're so like, upfront about all that. I'm like, just chill out. Like, play your cards a little more carefully. But after a while, I came to like really respect his character, especially as he started growing and started like learning to play his cards a little bit better. And, he wasn't so, just young and gun-ho for all these little missions that he's trying to do. I ended up really appreciating some of the ways he was going about things. And yeah, he absolutely is one of my favorite heroes of story, sci-fi, or fantasy.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I totally agree with you. Holden is in my top 3, partly because of what you described already, the growth he makes.
Yeah.
He's not just the goody two shoes that you get at the beginning where it's all black and white. He figures out there is some gray. He grows, but he's still at his core always fighting for what's right. And he will, as we see, he's willing to sacrifice. He'll do what it takes, for the little guy, for the everyman. Yeah, I loved him. So that's my top 2. I've got, Holden, and I've got Amos Burton. But my third, Avasarala.
Yes.
Avasarala.
That was mine.
She rocks.
Yeah.
Both in the book and the show.
They
cast that really well in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Avasarala, also known as Cadswain Sedai.
Correct.
For those of us.
If she's not, we riot.
I'm telling you. Her people, Rafe's people, they gotta get together, man.
Yeah.
Oh, is she supposed to play someone in the Wheel of Time?
She's been fan cast for that, and she has interacted with the fandom on Twitter saying, I'm up for that. I'm in.
Oh, cool.
Rafe, talk to me, the showrunner. Talk to me. It's like, oh, this would be great. Yeah.
She's in the next Assassin's Creed game. If you look up Assassin's Creed Mirage, I knew she has such a distinct voice that right from when she started talking in the trailer, I was like, oh, that's Avasarala. It was so cool.
Yep.
But
I've been a fan of hers for a long time. Way back,
too.
she was a bad guy, good guy, then bad guy in 24.
Oh, really?
24,
ever
like
watched
the
the
first
original
season,
24?
first or second season, yeah.
Yeah. And I loved her in that, and I followed her since.
She voice acted in the original Destiny game too. She was one of the NPCs.
Okay.
That's cool. See, I had no idea who she was before watching the show, and I think that they cast her so perfect. I forget what it is, but there's a clip I have on my phone that I watch all the time, and just some of her lines are so perfectly delivered. And just, oh man, she does such a good job.
One of my favorites I can't say on Jim's show.
I know. I was just about to say that.
I don't say those things on my show, but feel free.
And tell Holden not to put his dick in it. It's fucked enough as it is.
There you go.
Dude.
She does not hold back her language ever. And one of the things I love about Amos is he gives it right back to her all the time.
Yeah.
And he's the only one she'll take it from.
Yep.
Because
he'll still kill her. He doesn't care.
And he's not afraid of what she'll do to him. He don't care.
He kind of likes it, actually.
Great.
Yeah.
So Spencer, does that mean that's your 3 also then? We've got your 3?
Yeah, she would definitely be my 3rd. I think that, oh man, she's just got so many, as far as the series, like the actual books go, she's got so many great lines, and you get to see every now and then just like this little hint of personality, this little just a little way that she cares in some fashion. And I absolutely love that. I loved seeing her kind of, I don't know if I would really say she like grew throughout the books, because I think it was like always there, but like we got to know her more and kind of see like these deeper sides of her.
By the way, the show cast her husband really well too, I thought.
Not really. Yeah. Well, because they replaced him.
After season 1.
I thought
it worked.
I thought
I'm thinking more of the second guy. I'm thinking more of the second guy. Okay.
Oh, see, I liked the first guy. I thought the second guy was kind of a douchebag.
Well, that was just because she wasn't a great wife at that point in time. There was a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I can't not say honorable mention Bobby Draper.
Oh yeah, of course.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
I like Bobby. I like book Bobby better than TV Bobby. TV Bobby grew on me.
Yeah.
But book Bobby, wow.
Well, I think a lot of that, for me at least, was because I want to say book 2, maybe 3, when you get Bobby's perspectives on things, and she's with Avasarala. And so you get to see Avasarala through other people's eyes that's close to her. So you get to really kind of see the nuance, and especially from Bobby's perspective, like she's tired, she's overworking herself. She actually, she gives a shit about humanity.
Yeah.
And so that, I think that has a lot for me to make me like Avasarala that much more, because that's just not her idea of herself. That's what people close to her feel too, and that's how they see her.
Sure.
Sure.
So I got to go in a couple of minutes, but I wanted to ask real quick. What did you guys think of Alex? Did you like Alex?
In the overall, yes. Let's not talk about the actor who performed him.
Yes.
Oh, I don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't want to know. You don't.
Okay. Turns out he's not a good person, and they fired him.
Oh, interesting.
And they killed his character.
Which is why he's killed off there. End of season 5.
As far as the books go, did you like him?
I did. Totally. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
And his ending.
You didn't. I'm sensing. Is that what you're saying, Spencer? You didn't like Alex?
I didn't like Alex. Like I thought. Like I liked him in like certain scenes, and I thought he was like a good character in certain scenes. But I'm like, man, just like this deadbeat father who like can't get it right with his kids, and then he goes back like 15 years later or something and tries to dredge up this relationship with his wife that he abandoned, and then he's like all upset because she won't have him back, and he's like,
Yeah, but he knew that wasn't going to work. He knew.
Did he though? I think that he was hoping for it. And so
he went
then,
back to crash and burn. That gave him the closure he was looking for.
Well, that on top of that, Jim, I feel like it also gave him like the permission that he needed 20 years prior to go off and do his thing instead of just going off and doing his thing.
Right. I just and then by the end, didn't he have like when there was that big time jump? It's like Alex tried to get married again and he screwed that one up. And it's like, can this guy like get it together? I don't know. I just didn't really like him by the end.
Just aren't very put together people.
And
he's a broken kind of character.
Yeah, and that's fine. And he got to keep the Rocinante. Why did he get to keep the Rocinante? That pissed me off. Like, you don't understand. That pissed me off. I was like, it should go to Amos and God, her name's escaping me right now.
Naomi,
yeah.
Naomi?
Yeah, I'm like, the Rocinante should have gone with them, and Amos could have caught a ride to, I'm just that made me furious. That made me so mad.
Yeah.
That's hilarious because I feel like oh God, I lost his name.
Which guy?
Alex?
Which guy? Alex? Amos? Jim?
Alex. Sorry, Alex. Alex's ending was one of my favorites from the main cast. Him actually being able to forego his found family. Well, to forego being with his found family that he's been around for 40 years and to go be with his son and grandkid. And I really liked it. But I get it too. Like, yeah, why would this guy get the roasting?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't hate it.
Glenn in the chat just wants to know if Alex and the Rotzi survived their trip to the planet Kit was on. Yes.
I would assume so.
I would assume
absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to go. Thank you so much for having me. Everybody check out Fantasy Files Podcast on YouTube and Twitter. We have a Discord link and all of our most recent
finally.
Videos, so,
finally.
I know.
As well.
Patreon's coming soon. Patreon's coming soon.
Jim, send me a link to their Discord after the show.
I will.
Spencer, it was great to meet you.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
All right, thanks, Spencer. Good to have you. All right.
Good convo. Like that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. What a good sport. Jumps in 15 minutes before, I'll come on. We've done a few things together. He and I met because he had just read The Dragon Reborn and didn't know anybody he could talk to.
Really?
And he saw Zach and I cover The Wheel of Time. And so, I went on an episode with him. We talked about. He's still not finished the series, though.
Oh, well, get it together, Spencer.
Exactly what I've told him. I said, so how's it coming, dude? Where you at now? Oh, goodness.
Yeah, all right. Glenn brings up a good point. Alex spent more time on the Rossi than anybody else. He stayed on the ship while others were off doing missions.
It's really his ship, man. It's his ship.
Baby. It may not be his ship, but it's his baby.
It is. For me, it was very appropriate.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed Alex's send-off in the books. When I saw the episode of the show, and we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty, but I didn't hate how they killed him off. I'm glad that they got rid of the actor because, F that guy. But even
I would have preferred, and I know this is touchy, but I would prefer they replace the actor. Rather than do that to the character. That would have been my preference, but not everybody gets into that.
Since they knew that they were only going to go for one more season, I'm okay with it. But if they were going to keep it going for a few more seasons to finish out the book series, I totally agree with that.
Now, to bring it back, to finish, you have to do some tweaking because there's no Alex. He's not there anymore, man. Yeah. But then you think of his role in the last three books and you're like, Well, no, they could make it work.
Yeah.
He's not as primary at that point, you know,
No.
as some of the others. You know, if
Yeah.
Amos, if he was the guy they had to write off, okay,
Yeah.
screw this series, it's done. There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah. Recast that dude.
Totally.
Yeah. And I I think that they could, because they killed off in the show, season 6. Did they kill off Bobby? I forget.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think on the show. Yeah.
On the show,
Sure
not the
they
book.
did, didn't they?
I'm pretty sure.
I think there was a pretty glorious.
I think it was a pretty glorious death for Bobby. Yeah, on the surface of in the ring station on where they had all the rail guns set up. Yeah.
Now Glenn is saying he's pretty sure Bobby's alive at the end of the show. We might be getting the books and the show mixed up here.
Very much so. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to keep them straight, partly because the show was done so well.
Yes.
So, you know, there are some shows where adaptations are so glaringly different from the books that there's no confusing them. Confusing them.
Are you talking about the Magicians? Because I know we've talked about the Magicians.
That
in the
would
past.
be one. Another would be the Shannara Chronicles.
I haven't read garbage. Those books. I haven't read those books, and I read watched maybe one or two of the episodes, and this is not good shit. This is not good fantasy TV. This is not good TV. Because I can get past campy fantasy TV.
I am thrilled to hear you say that, though, because it's written more for someone like your generation. I hated it.
How old do you think I am, Jim?
Okay. Well, you're not as old as I am. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But I'm not as young as you think I am.
Man, do I do this? Do I take a guess? I have no idea.
You're not going to offend me. You might make me happy.
I would put you at maybe. Oh man, this is hard. The older you get, the harder it is to guess ages. But I'd say somewhere around. Oh crap, this is bad. 30?
35. That's close.
All right. Yeah. There you go. I didn't want to go too high, and then I would offend you. You know, I knew you weren't in your 40s, man. So there you go. Hey, Glenn was with me. He guessed 30. So yeah.
It's the baby face.
You want to see baby face? I take this beard off, and it just.
Me too. If I didn't have the beard, I would look like I was 14.
I was a teacher for many years, and early in my teaching career, parents would question everything I said about their kids. What got me 100% to suddenly seem like an expert to the parents was I had my own kid. Okay, now I must know what I'm talking about because I have a kid.
Yeah.
But the second and bigger one was I grew a beard. Suddenly, I'm an expert. They listened to me because it was crazy.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I understand the problem we have with parents. Grow a beard. She was a teacher too. She didn't take that advice, and I'm thankful.
So, all right. I don't know. Beards are nice.
I've kept this since I was 29. I tried to grow my first one when I was 19, and I got married at 19. And I grew it, and she said, "You are shaving that off. That looks like crap." I'll have to show a picture on the channel sometime because it did look like crap. It was bad. Okay, we have tangented here. Let's
more Expanse.
Next thing I want to talk about. Some of the most shocking moments to you as you read or watched either one, The Expanse.
And I've had your outline to think about, and for most shocking, it's so hard. Because they do such a good job of planting the seeds that it might be shocking, but then you go back and think it's oh, they did tell us all this. The dropping the rock on Earth, and not just
the hints are there,
a rock, but so many rocks.
It was a machine gun rock, man. They just keep boom, 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 boom. Yeah. They keep coming. I
don't know. Give me one of yours. Let me dwell on a little bit more.
Wow. All right. One of the most shocking for me, and Spencer referenced this earlier, when Amos gets taken out.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, you know, and then he comes back, but I did not see him dying like that. It's like, what? That was shocking.
You had to know it was coming, but Avasarala being dead 30 years later.
Yeah, the time jump, it was kind of a given then.
But I think
Yeah. That's what Glenn said. As we're just putting this in here, he goes, the 30-year time jump.
Fair.
Yeah. I found it unsettling. I said it earlier in reading. I'm like, wait, what? I'm not sure I want this. And then
fair.
I did.
I didn't mind it because I feel like after book 6, it's like, all right, this story's wrapped up. There's there's 3 more books. Where are we gonna go? And it's like 30 years later. Oh, okay. But as far as like with the Avasarala dying bit, it's not necessarily her dying because she started out as an old lady. Let's be real. Was how when Jim found out about it when he was a prisoner on Laconia, was them having like such a tribute to her.
Yeah.
On Laconia, which started out as Martian people doing things, and like, but they're building this monument to Christian Avasarala. I thought not like, you know, sticker value shocking, but it was still kind of like a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Holden being captured for as long as he was, and like being like the of the final 3 books, he was a prisoner for a book and a half, if not more, which was, it took the span of a few years.
Yeah. No. Another shocking one for me is from early on. When Bull dies.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. I mean, he was beat up, and from what he's pushing himself, I could see him die, but not the way he died. I didn't see that.
I loved it though. It was
go on a blaze of glory, man. But
written.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fred Holden's death in the books, that did not shock me. Fred Johnson. Sorry, yeah. Fred Holden. Wow. Okay, yeah. Fred Johnson's death, stroking out like that. That was appropriate that they did something like that. It was a little surprising. Okay, whoa, you just did that to Fred Johnson? Whoa. But it worked. So I wasn't like, oh, no.
Yeah, I didn't care for it too much in the show.
No. Take him out like a punk. That's not cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's been a while since I've read them for the first time, so like the shocking moments. And like I said, I watched the show before I read the books.
Yeah.
So
that steals some of the shocks from you, but the shocks in the show, you know.
I mean, just the end of the first episode, whenever the Canterbury is blown up, like. It's like, so you
like,
just...
Ooh, that's not good.
hour introducing us to all these people and the nuances and all these things. Like, this dude's just got his arm ripped off and he's about to go get a new one. And Holden's girlfriend, what's going on with them? What's going on with the XO that's...
Go back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
When the doctor gets his head blown off there.
Yeah.
That's shocking. Now, there's so much more that happens in the story after this, but in that moment, both book and show is like, whoa, we thought this was one of the core characters. What's happening?
Yeah, because I seen him in other shows.
Oh, yeah. We knew that actor, you know, exactly.
And I hadn't seen many of the other ones before, and it's like, oh.
You usually think they've got some what's the word? Plot
armor.
Thank you. Plot armor. When you recognize an actor, oh, he'll be around a while. She'll be around a while. Yeah. We should know better after Scream.
We should.
Do you remember the movie Scream?
I do. I was a
Drew
kid.
Barrymore, biggest actress in it, and she dies in the opening scene. Yeah. Sorry, spoilers for Scream if you somehow haven't seen this after all these years. Sheesh. All right. Planet, moon, or asteroid that you'd most want to live on. You know, and I'm even going to go to the extreme of saying end of series.
That's
Okay,
fair.
so not how they are at the beginning, how they
Yeah.
are at the end. Which one would you most want to live on?
At the beginning, series.
Okay.
Before things happened on series. Or no, sorry, Arrows.
Ganymede was pretty sweet before.
Sorry, I meant Arrows. I get series and Arrows mixed up a little bit. Arrows.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of takes a dive.
Before the thing happened on Arrows, because it was the central hub of the belt. It had everything you needed. It had bars, it had casinos, it had the cat houses, it had work, it had everything. It had food, shopping.
Not much going for it by the end of the series, though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. After book 2, it's gone. And as I get older, I'm just like, man, I want to live on a planet that's sustaining. Like, I don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles. I need myself. I need, people that I'm friends and companions with. I need, a reason to keep on going. I don't need, the things. I need a life. So give me a boring planet with my people, and I'm good with it.
That's kind of where Glenn is in the chat. He's like, just give me full G. That's all I want. Okay. I just want nice, boring planet.
Man, I'll bet my back would feel so much better after like a few nights of 0G sleep.
Hey, yeah. I tell you, of all the places that I learned about in it, I kind of find Laconia.
It ain't bad though, right?
Attractive, man. It seems like a really nice planet. Once the government changes a little bit, okay, then that could be a place to go.
Laconia. Yeah. What was Duarte's daughter's name?
Oh, that's a reach.
If
I got no idea now.
Yeah, if Tiny.
But if she goes on to be the kind of ruler that we would hope she's set up to be, it's going to become a pretty idyllic place.
Yeah, but she's not on Laconia anymore. She's hanging out with, or she was hanging out with Amos.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because they became buds.
Yeah.
Teresa. Okay.
Teresa.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you, Glenn. There you go.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right. Well, we flipped the question then. Of all the planets, moons, and asteroids, which one would you least want to live on? And
Earth.
Earth is not a very pleasant place. Even at the beginning, it's not a very pleasant place. Overpopulated, crime.
Like 60 billion people or something like that.
So many of them are just living on
basic,
which is like
the book version of basic is
basically you have
the
just
book
what
version
you
of basic isn't as bad as the show version of basic, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the churn makes it pretty clear. Basic is not all that it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, for me, that only gives you a glimpse of like a large city like Baltimore and only the criminal underbelly.
I've been to Baltimore. Even in our day and age, it's not that great a place to be. I had never seen people shooting heroin until I visited a mall in Baltimore.
Good crab cakes, but yeah, that's about it. 30 billion people. Thank you, Glenn.
Glenn just finished the series just recently, so it's fresher in his head than either of us. That's true.
I'm working my way in the middle of it, but I'm also going through Cosmere.
I'm gonna offend anybody from Baltimore watching, but I'm putting Glenn's comment because it's hard to argue. All right, I've got one here. Just, do you have a greatest gut punch moment where you're just like, oh man, how could they have done that? Something ring for you?
Not off the top of my head, because I feel like that kind of goes more into the gut punch of what I was thinking, at least, or into the shocking moments.
Yeah.
When Naomi jumped off the ship through vacuum to get to the other one.
Mhm.
That was pretty gnarly. And the show did a great job.
Yeah, yeah.
The book fucking crushed it. Sorry, the book crushed it. Like, it was
Yep.
so good.
If she hadn't made it,
Yeah.
okay, that's the major gut punch. I'd go with, oh, Glenn's dropped it in the chat too.
Yeah.
Bobby. You know,
Yeah.
how Bobby ends up going out. That's like,
Yeah.
oh, man.
Or even like when the Laconians just when the Laconians show up. And then the whole like the brain melding bit was a little nuts.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know, one of the maybe not gun punching. This might be a shocking moment because I'm starting to think of the later books now. But whenever they bring out Kara and Zan to do their experiments with the BFE,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's like once you kind of grasp on what's actually going on and how they are, like it's nuts.
Yep, totally.
Oh, Monica Stewart, Glenn, she's a great.
Yeah, we hadn't talked about her at all. I'll put that up there as we're talking about favorite characters. Alex, Bobby, Monica Stewart. I'm kind of glad now that Spencer's gone at this point, though, because what would he have done if we noted Alex as a favorite character?
Right?
He hates Alex. He hated him.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the character? This is a fun one. Which character do you feel like most deserved the ending that he got or she got? And for good or bad, which one you just still smile when you think of that ending?
I mentioned it earlier, but Alex going to his kid and grandkid, taking his baby off to the sunset. You got a very short amount of time to make this decision. He's like, I'm going to see my boy.
There you
I
go.
love you. I love you, Naomi. I'm going to my boy.
I like it.
Take the Rossi and go. Like it was good.
I love Amos's ending. You know, and it's not even really an ending. You know, and it just brought a smile to my face when I read that part. Man.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's a brilliantly written book series. Because how the story goes and how the characters are set up and what they do, I feel like they pretty much all got the ending that they deserved, or at least wanted. Maybe not deserved, or if not deserved, they got the ending they wanted.
Cortazar, the way he goes out in the books at the end, it's like, yeah, you sucked.
Yeah,
I like this ending for you. It ends badly for him. Spencer, it ends badly. No, he read the books. He hasn't.
And also,
this show.
Duarte.
Yeah, totally. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end of this one. I have, one last key question, and that's, what do you wish you knew more about now? I mean, Spencer was certainly telling us earlier he wished he knew what happened to the other core characters afterwards.
Yeah.
What happens, Naomi? What goes on then for, Alex once he gets to his kid or, wants to know a little bit more and he didn't get it. What do you want to know more about?
I mean, obviously, kind of want to know more what happened in between, like the events of the main story and then like the 1,000 years or however long, whenever like the epilogue hits. Sorry, I was just reading a comment from Glenn.
That's a powerful one.
Yeah.
And, it's almost embarrassing we didn't say anything more about this earlier on. It chops off before we can see all of her. No, that is what he said. Okay, there it's all there. Yeah. Clarissa was a great character. We talked about that on the last time we did the Expanse.
Yeah.
Definitely value that character.
Yeah, she was great. As far as I wish I knew more about. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'd like to know if Mars was ever got their magnetosphere, or if everybody just left Mars to go to other rings.
once the ring gates close, the momentum is back
Yes,
to turn
very much
Mars
so.
into a fully functional biosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. Man, a lot of things I wish I knew more about, but also I don't necessarily need it. I'm good with the stories I've got in my head. Like
Okay.
I'm really good with what they gave us, and I think that's a brilliant, or that's a way to brilliantly close a series, is to not necessarily bookend every character. Like give
I like that. Yeah, it left me satisfied,
yeah, I
and that's
think
what you're saying too.
yeah, what I would want more of would be the 30-year time gap. Give me some Outrigger novels of the 30-year gap of the Rossi crew tracking down folks or doing some weird stuff, or whatever.
There's more stories that could have
Or
been told. Yeah, that we
even
just don't
even
get.
some more of like the geopolitical stuff with the trade union in that time frame.
Now, why don't we get it? Well, I think in its essence, The Expanse is the story of James Holden.
Correct.
So when he's done,
Yeah,
it's done.
and
That's
I'm
it.
good with it. I'm good with it.
Yeah. And we got good closure there. He had a great story arc.
Yeah.
From what we meet in the beginning to what he becomes in the end and how he goes out. I mean, that's
and I don't think we've mentioned Naomi once this episode, but for her to for the not I don't want to say for her to stand by his side, because they stood side by side. Like, she is her own character, and she did so much, especially in the book 7, 8, 9 while Holden was prisoner. She did so much for the rebellion and the underground, and man, that section of her arc is one of my favorites to read. Yeah, it was good. Just and because you get to see a lot of it through her eyes too, with those books. Yeah, Marco's not a good guy. The actor they got for him for the show was brilliant, and he
was way better. That was a better Marco than I got it out of the book.
Yeah, I didn't like his haircut in the final season, but that's okay.
One thing that was good about the TV show, we got more of Bull. He survived a lot longer. Yeah.
I did see after they killed off Alex at the end of season 5. I did see a lot of speculation that they're going to bring Bull on to be the pilot for season 6. I was a little sad they didn't, but I'm okay with it.
Have you heard what Glenn just put down there now? A lot of ladies want Keon Alexander to play Demandred. I hadn't seen that one yet.
I don't hate it.
It's very appropriate. We finally fit something tied to Wheel of Time onto an episode here.
Now we've talked about.
We did have a little. We had Cat Swain. Yeah, our comments there. Totally. All right. Is there anything else we should be talking about before we close this up?
I think I've exhausted this to my brain's extent tonight. We could potentially do this again 6 months down the road, though.
Well, Leia's going to be, hey, guys, come on. I want to do it again. I want to talk some more. So we'll probably have to get together.
This back and be like, you guys did not talk about this, and this.
I have no doubt this episode suffered for the lack of her presence. No doubt.
It was better than it could have been because Spencer showed up and saved us.
Spencer showed up. Yep. So that is no shade on Spencer. He rocked it. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, Jake, thank you for still being here, being the guy. Yeah. Spencer, again, thank you for giving us the time that you had today. Hope you all enjoyed spending some more time in the Expanse with us. Chat, Glenn, thank you for being here. Enriches the episode a little bit more. Let me run the outro. Put this up in front of us. There it is. Just kind of the reminder of all the ways people can find us. And, again, like, subscribe. Join us on Discord. We even have a Patreon. So if you're really wanting to make sure this stuff keeps going, and I can add things like the green screen that's behind me now, Patreon, support us in this effort.
Give me your money.
Please. I'm like, please, sir, can I have some more? Now, anyways, It's been real. Jake, it's been fun.
It's been so much fun. Thank you, Tim.
And listeners, we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.